All right. Thank you, everyone, for joining. So this show kicks off season 2. So wonderful. And what better way to start than bringing our CEO on the call? Thank you, Vivek, for joining us on Experience Matters. We know it's going to be a great show because we have Vidya Venugopal as well. So Vidya is an MR, a CX, pretty much an expert on all fields in and around CX. She brings her expertise to QuestionPro, so joined us as a consultant. Vidya also has her new startup, her own venture, Inside Gig. Vidya, thank you for joining us. Do you want to walk us through what Inside Gig is about? Give us
Sure.
highlights. Yeah.
So I think, like with all things technology enabled research is trying to do, Insight Gig is another method of trying to democratize the way organizations get insights. The idea is if there is so much technology enabled research and people have ready access to data, then they should also have ready access to be able to glean insights from that data. And you always find that sometimes it helps to have a human in the loop to get those insights from data. And that is really what Insights Gig is trying to do, because it is trying to create a technology enabled delivery place where you can access experts as and when you require insights, and use those experts almost as a flexible extension of your insights team, and gain insights from it. So, yeah, it's in short an insight marketplace, but the idea is to be able to provide on demand insights as a service.
So it's brilliant, right? And best of luck. I know
Hey,
you've
Vidya.
already got. Yeah.
Hey, Vidya, would you call it Upwork for Insights? Would you call
Um,
that?
Yes, a little bit, yes. But we are trying to be more of a deep network marketplace. So we hope to bring in expertise and depth within MRCX and analytics, a lot more than what a general talent marketplace would do. So
Got it.
that's the plan.
Awesome. All right. Love it.
Awesome. And they come on for a particular project, right? And with an objective, achieve that, and then how
Absolutely.
does it work? Is just like a consulting basis?
It can be both ways. So typically we are starting off with, you can have specific projects with each expert, and you can use multiple experts across different projects. But over time the focus is also to build relationships, because it's always good to build relationships and insights with people who have context with your brand and your requirements. So yes, it can move to something of a retainer model as well, if the data leads us to believe that that's something that's of value.
Awesome. Awesome. I'm not sure how you fit all of this into one day. Do you still wake up at 5 a.m. every day? Is it you must be halfway through your work day by now, right?
You can ask Vivek how I am on night calls, so that knows that I've started my day early. I'm pretty much brain fried.
Yeah, Vivek's calendar is crazy. Vivek, you also
Yeah.
start really early in the morning, right?
Yeah, I just do cocaine in the morning and then drugs in the evening.
Yeah. But Vivek doesn't look like he has an early morning, but because he's still full of energy.
Yeah.
I'm telling you, cocaine
Whatever
does help.
gets you through it.
Yeah.
I'm just fucking with you guys. That's all right.
All right, shall we get started? Today's
Yeah.
show, Insights Hub. All right, perfect. So the reason and everything you would have noticed, the headline of the show is Insights Hub as well. It's QuestionPro's latest product that we've put out. We've got few customers already on it, but we wanted to use the show to walk you through, what it's about, where it started, the highlights, give you a demo as well. So we have a lot of researchers who watch this series. We have CXOs of companies who watch these series. So really seeing how Insights Hub can help them. So that's really the goal of what today's show is about. So having said that, Vivek, I'm going to hand it over to you. Maybe you can walk us through, starting with, how did this whole thing come about? I know at QuestionPro we take customer feedback really seriously. So did it come from there? Was it a requirement from the customer? How did
Absolutely.
it start?
Can you guys see my screen right now? I guess. Can you see
No, let me
the
just,
shared?
yes, we can now.
Yes, we
Mhm.
can.
Okay, cool. Yeah, I mean, a great question. I think we obviously service over 6,000 customers across the planet, and one of the things that we started asking our customers is like, hey, obviously, in terms of quantitative research, we do tons of surveys, and we kind of started talking to our customers and said like, hey, how do you manage the insights coming out of it? And it was like, oh yeah, we put it a PowerPoint deck, we present it to our stakeholders love it, and then I said, so what happens after that? And they say, well, we don't know. We just put it on a PowerPoint deck, put it on at best, we put it on a SharePoint folder. At worst, it is in some guy's laptop somewhere, and then it kind of disappears. And there's a lot of knowledge here, right? So we create we went through a study, we kind of learned something, and we presented, and we made a business decision. Typically, we make some sort of a business decision around it, and nothing happens. I mean, we're not able to reuse that really, right? So, and that's the problem we're trying to solve with Insights Hub. We're like, okay, look, we are collecting a lot of data. We are kind of even informing our decisions based on the data, but can we reuse and build upon what we've already collected, right? What do we know about X? X could be like, what do you know in the context of retail, for example? We have back to school. So what do we know about back to school? If you are in a retail, in retail environment, or in the context of, let's say India, what do we know about Diwali shopping? Every year we do some amount of research around the context, and then we kind of get lost. Nothing gets. We don't build upon each other. So Insights Hub is our solution to kind of build upon what we already know, so that we don't do the same things again and again. So that's how we came about
Got
kind
it.
of building this platform.
Got it. And also for everyone who's joined, I know we have a comment section at the bottom. Put in your questions. We'll be happy to answer your questions on live as well. In case we're not able to get to it, we will definitely get back to you, answer those questions. So keep those questions coming.
Got it. Do you want me to just walk through Insights Hub right now, or what do you want me to do?
Yeah, I think let's start. Before we get into the demo, maybe just walk us through the key highlights of what they can expect when they sign up with the platform, what the platform entails, all of that.
Yeah, absolutely. So fundamentally, we are trying to solve kind of like 2 or 3 problems with at least this platform. So from a data collection perspective, obviously we have QuestionPro. From a survey perspective, but what we see is, research teams don't have a workflow platform. And I wouldn't say like this is kind of brand new. There are tons of project management tools, anything from Monday.com to kind of Asana. There's a ton of tools out there, but they are not integrated with other research tools. So our vision over here is to say, like, let's build a workflow, kind of like, okay, how do you manage research, from the intake process to having a form for intake. So if you're doing, let's say you're doing ad testing.
Vivek, you're on mute. You've gone on mute. Not yet. I think you're still on mute.
Okay, can you guys hear me?
Yeah.
Perfect.
Sorry about that. My AirPod just died, but that's all right. So I'll just kind of go forward with it. So I was saying, in the context of workflow, I would say that we have been, Insights teams, typically manage projects on Excel spreadsheets. Some teams are smart enough to kind of get into kind of some sort of a project management system. For that, I mean, it's not a massive problem, I would argue, but it is definitely a problem that we've identified, at least for Insights teams of companies. More mature teams have kind of created systems and processes that kind of go through the process, but people who are just getting into research have kind of managed projects on an ad hoc basis, either through SharePoint folders, Google Drives, and a combination of Excel spreadsheets. So we believe that problem has to be solved through using some sort of a kind of structural interface. The second problem that we're trying to solve, which is discovery and knowledge graph, which is, once you collect the insights, kind of tagging them, having a business lexicon to kind of match what kind of the business wants to what the research is delivering, really. So if if I want to find out everything we know about, Gen X or millennials, that we've already done research, we've done 10 different projects around that. It's not easy to discover that. It's not the discovery around that, and the knowledge graph that we build around that is not easy. Search is an okay interface to find that information. Typically, as we did research internally, we talked to most of our customers. We came back with, like, most people said, like, well, the research director knows that what he's doing. So it's in the kind of minds of the directors, and that's good in one way, but also not necessarily from an organizational perspective. It's obviously not good, because if the director leaves, then all that information goes along with it. So the part of this platform is to make sure that we kind of, like, the institutional knowledge that we have is codified and structured and kept independent of the people that are in there. And the final thing that we built as part of this platform is one-on-one interviews. We wanted to get into the qualitative space. Obviously, as QuestionPro, we do a ton of quantitative stuff, but we want to get into the qualitative space also. And so we've built a pretty kind of interesting tool that connects to all the the knowledge graph through one-on-one interviews. And I can walk you guys through that a little bit. But those are the three key themes that we are trying to solve with Insights Hub right now.
So
Perfect.
Vivek,
Yeah.
if I were a market research director in a company, then I'd say that, hey, this is a problem that I face, and I can see how this is going to solve that problem at each individual level. But I also use, let's say, Question Pro to do some surveys. I have Survey Monkey on which I do some other surveys. I
Correct.
run my CX program on Question Pro. And so I do have some kind of a repository of data that exists across these softwares. So now, where does really Insights Hub sit on top of this? How do I, as an organization, kind of fit this in within my Insight ecosystem? So if I were a market research director, that might be a question that comes to my mind.
Absolutely. So I think our vision, that's why we built Insights Hub as a separate platform outside of QuestionPro, really. I mean, it's kind of like, obviously is the same it's the same company, but even there is no intrinsic relationship between Insights Hub, and we just use APIs to kind of connect with QuestionPro itself, really, right? So in theory, we've already connected with Try My UI. Try My UI is a usability testing platform, for example. So research, as we all understand, research has multiple facets to it, right? So one is CX, one is UX. There's kind of all kinds of things that you could do. So our vision with Insights Hub is, very similar to Zapier, which is like we will API connect to a bunch of SaaS platforms that you're using. So that could be anything from Hub UX that it does qualitative studies to Try My UI, which is kind of a usability testing platform. Obviously, internally within QuestionPro that you're using surveys, we can connect to that. And quite frankly, I think internally we've had a big debate about it, but we are kind of probably going to do even other survey platforms. So if you, like you said, SurveyMonkey, so if you're collecting data from SurveyMonkey, you can import that kind of insights from SurveyMonkey also into this. So we want to be the kind of like the repository for insights as opposed to being anchored around surveys. Obviously, we've already done the integration with QuestionPro itself, but the way we've designed the system is that's kind of independent of QuestionPro to some extent. And we use, quite frankly, the public APIs that we provide on QuestionPro to kind of get data from QuestionPro into Insights Hub. Does that answer the question? Does that make sense?
Absolutely. And if I can just, confirm whether I've understood correctly, how we are looking at Insights Hub is, hey, use the best methodology for the objective that you're trying to achieve with your research, right? We are not going to restrict you on the methodology. Use the best methodology. But who we are is a layer over that methodology, which will consolidate the insights and deliver it to you. Is that a right understanding?
Absolutely. And our focus, like I said, our focus is on discovery and the knowledge graph, really.
Yeah.
Not really, we're not like, I want to make sure that we're not a Tableau, we are not Power BI. We don't want the data to be here. We want a layer above that. It's like, okay, once you have the data, you kind of get some insights. You actually understand what is good, what's bad, what you learned, making that into an atomic unit. And so that other people in the organization, in your own organization, can discover that is what we are really focused on. So like a lot of information gets wasted. Like you are, as a researcher, you produce a PowerPoint deck, and then the PowerPoint deck gets lost, honestly, usually. And so I don't want that to happen. So if somebody, 1 year down the lane or 6 months down the lane wants to find out, like, look, you did some research around, around back to school, and back to school is a construct that your business understands. I want everybody in the organization to find out everything that you found, everything that you kind of produced, from a human perspective, and that has to be surfaced out. And I look at it as more like a knowledge management platform rather than kind of like anything else, rather than a kind of data or insights platform, really.
Yeah. The insights and all of that we're showcasing with your with Insights Hub, right? With from the research, the programs, is the target audience the research teams in the organizations, or are we looking at making everybody in the organization, senior management, access these insights? Who's our target? Who's actually using the Insights Hub platform?
Absolutely, great question. So my vision here is that everybody in the organization has access to Insights Hub, right, as a read-only basis, right? The research team produces the content, puts it into a repository. I look at it, I mean, obviously I'm an engineer by trade. I look at it from the same context of how a software developer looks at a problem, right? Like, we do not start writing software without a repository. I talk to any software developer in the planet. They will, like, talk to any sales guy. They will not get into a sales operation without a CRM platform. Simple,
Yeah.
right? Talk to any software developer. They would not write a single line of code without, GitHub. End of story,
Yeah.
right? That's where they check in their code, because they want to build on top of each other, right? And I think the same logic applies with Insights Hub. Like, you would not, I want to make sure that every piece of data, every piece of insights we collect is built on top of each other, as opposed to like being sporadic and being, spread across. So going back to your question, the target audience is the contributors are the research teams, but the
Yeah.
consumers are everybody in the organization. It could be product managers, marketing people, sales managers who want to find out how things are working. So all those folks who are consumers within the organization can come to Insights Hub for that organization, search, discover, tag, understand, and even get notified. So we can even imagine models where we say, look, I am really interested. I'm in charge of B2B sales. I'm in charge of
Yeah.
every single research for this particular context. Can subscribe to that topic, and then anybody produces research, any piece of data that is produced against that topic, I automatically get notified, and I am one of the product managers, or I'm one of the sales managers for that particular organization. So you can see that how the research that is being produced is actually pushed out and democratized, and everybody actually has access to it. Does that make sense?
Brilliant. Yeah. Yeah. Got it. I think we've teased this product enough. Do you want to just do a demo so everyone can actually see what it looks like? And
Yeah. So sure, I'll do a quick demo around this. Like, obviously, like we kind of like have the Insights Hub platform as part of QuestionPro. So you can, it's one of our product lines over here, and I'll go through like a really quick 10-minute demo around it. So in terms of projects, you can create projects over here. So the project management system is also actually reasonably straightforward. You can create projects. The key part is you can tag projects to different tags. In this particular case, you can tag it by research type or year the research is delivered, for example. And all these things are configurable, right? As a within the hub that you have, you can create any number of different tags. You can go down and create tags, and you can say, like, I want to create a own tag for myself. In this particular case, I want to add a tag that says, like, okay, look, this is a customer, let's say customer type, and then you can say B2B, and then SMB, and that's it, right? So you can create these tags internally, and then when every project that you run, you can tag it to those projects, right? You say, like, okay,
yeah.
look, this is a B2B project versus this is a SMB project, really, right? So it's a fairly configurable kind of context. So once that is tagged to these kind of things, then when you come down here, you can see, like, I want to see all the projects that I've done in 2022, really. For example, you can see all the projects that are done that are in 2022. So any of the things that are tags, you can see all the SMB projects. Obviously, in this particular case, there's only one over here. And so you can see that, so discoverability and search becomes super easy. So that's kind of one component to it, really, right? From a project perspective, once you go into a project, this is where things get really interesting from what I was talking about in the knowledge graph perspective. Every project has a theme, a set of nuggets, recommendations, and findings. But frankly, it's no different than what you would normally do in a PowerPoint deck as the first slide in your executive summary. Except in this particular case, we've kind of broken this down and made it atomic, really, right? So which says, like, you have to kind of like write this down. And not only do you have to make it atomic, you actually tag it correctly, right? So it's like, okay, we understand that this particular piece of nugget is tied to this particular content over here, right? And it could be user personas and journeys. All these tags that you see as part of the knowledge graph, these are all customizable, right? So you could come in and say, like, look, we want to tag things in a particular way. And what happens is, again, from a discovery perspective, you can come to the knowledge graph and you say, like, look, I want to know everything about baby boomers, and this is what we know about baby boomers, because we, in project number this, we learned that males don't like X and was tagged to baby boomers. So this becomes the discovery component of that becomes super smooth, super easy, and frankly, people like, it gets the entire organization within a company to say, like, look, I don't understand how to go through your research PowerPoint deck, but I understand baby boomers, because that's a construct that from a business perspective, obviously we understand it. So I'm going to look at for everything we know about baby boomers. That gives me some context and idea about what's going on, and that helps me make a better decision at the end of the day. So it's like time to insights, time to decision making, and kind of democratizing kind of the ability to all the data, that all the insights that we have, it's kind of democratizing it instead of hiding it behind PowerPoint decks and kind of like making it astronomically difficult to kind of like catch, get into. So that's kind of a quick kind of overview of what we've built so far. Obviously this is a work in progress right now. We're in beta testing mode and all kinds of things. And the last part I just want to kind of quickly touch over is obviously we talked about one-on-one interviews. So you can create interviews, and store kind of context and content as you are taking an interview, as you're going through an interview. But the key part, I mean, which is kind of, I would say, like not brilliant, or kind of, and you could do that in Google Docs. There are tons of other tools to do it. But again, we talked about the knowledge graph. And once as we are going through an interview, we can select a particular component and we can say, like, we want to tie this to this particular item in the knowledge graph, right? So we know that this particular context is related to this particular piece of text is related to this particular piece of context, really. So that correlation is super important, because that becomes the evidence for a lot of conversations. So if you're doing a one-on-one interview, and then at the end of the one-on-one interview, you're like, okay, look, these are all the tags that we have that are linked to each other, really. So that's why it's important. Does that make sense?
It makes sense, and I appreciate how you did the entire Insights Hub demo in like what less than 10 minutes. That's definitely some skill right there, because I know the features that are there. So that was great. Thank you, Vivek. And all of this is ready to go, right? We already have customers on board. We're ready to get the product out there with anyone who's wants to get going. We're set, ready to go.
Yeah, I mean, we're in beta testing mode. I would say, like, we're not in full kind of production mode, but Vidya is managing kind of like a lot of these conversations right now with me. And anybody who wants to use it, we're giving it away. Quite frankly, if you're a QuestionPro customer, you get it for free for the next 3 months, and we obviously charge. And then there's a 50% discount for the next year, and then you pay us the full price for the year after. So that's how we've structured it so far. So if somebody wants to use it, it's free for the next 3 months, no questions asked. It's kind of a pilot project that anybody wants to use it as a pilot project. It can be kind of executed almost instantly.
Yeah. So, like Vivek mentioned, Vidya, I know you're already speaking to quite a few people, quite a few customers. Is it for everyone? We're looking at enterprise. Are we looking at SMBs? Is it literally, can anyone buy this and benefit from this?
Well, my short answer is yes, but I'm not going to just stop with the short answer, right? What is the idea behind Insight Hub? The idea behind Insight Hub is, if you look at everybody who handles research in an organization, right? They are the custodians of human understanding, right? They are the custodians of how the business understands its customers. Therefore, it's very important for someone who handles research and who is such a custodian to be able to easily democratize this data within the organization, right? And that is really the fundamental concept on which Insights Hub is built. And the tenets of it, if you look at it, is about pure democratization, which is, hey, it's flexible, which means that the insights really straddle across studies and are not isolated within them, right? The second one is easy discoverability, which means that you consistently start tagging the insights as you go along, as you do more and more studies, and then you have an accumulated knowledge that people can discover over time. The third one is transparency, which means everyone in the organization can really have access to the same contextual information, which means that the organization is really making decisions based on a unified view of the customer. Now, all these three really are the fundamental pillars on which any democratization exercise is built. And that is really how Insights Hub is built. So taking these fundamental tenets are really applicable to any organization, which says that, hey, I want to understand my customers better, and I want to be able to make better decisions, but I want to also make that decision-making process easy. I don't want it to be where every time I have to go and do a fresh exercise and start from zero. I want to, like Vivek said, I want to build on top of what I already know. And that is really when your knowledge grows as well. So the idea is any organization which wants to make customer-centric decisions can use this, and everybody in the organization can use this. But it's also can't be a free for all, right? Because you'll have to start with a process to make any initiative successful. So the idea is, if you are an insight custodian in an organization, you adopt it, right? You adopt it and set the grammar for how your organization needs to look at insights, which means that what are the relevant tags that the various various presentations or the various insight modules that you have needs to have. What are the tags that you think are relevant? And this can always be changed over time, right? You're not hard coding or making anything static, but you start from somewhere by creating a short grammar or a simple grammar which the rest of the organization can use to start off discovering insights. So the insight custodian is really the starting point for this exercise. They create a database of the insight modules that they have, and I'm calling this insight modules because we don't want to restrict it to just, let's say, quantitative PowerPoint text. It can also be qualitative notes that you collect on interview labs, right? So you create insight modules, you start creating a database of those insight modules, because you first start with a library. For you to be able to build on anything, you start with a library, and then you create the relevant tags so that you know, hey, this is the grammar, this is the syntax that I think will make sense for my organization. And then over time, as people use the syntax to discover more insights, it starts revealing how the grammar can be expanded and built, and then it becomes a true repository of insights, and the discoverability becomes easier over time. So our recommendation literally would be like, yes, the potential is immense. The potential is for the entire organization to use, but it is meant to be started by the insight custodian, so that he says that I have all this consumer knowledge. Now let me make it democratic for my organization. Let me make it easy for the people in my organization to find. They set a small grammar, and you don't even have to add every single insight module you have to your library. Start with maybe specific BUs. Start with maybe specific geographies, right? Start with maybe different specific chronology. It could be just the last couple of years that the research that we've done. Start off, set the grammar, build adoption within the organization, and then the value becomes a repeatable loop, because then you want to add more things to your library. You want to allow people to be able to discover more, and then it grows in an organic manner. But at the same time, setting this methodology up makes sure that it's not a free for all, but rather it is a construct within which the whole organization operates to access transparent democratic insights through which they can easily make decisions. So this is really how I think we look at Insights Hub, and there is a lot of value in being able to just democratize insights for everyone to know, hey, this is my consumer, this is what he thinks about my brand, this is how he uses my brand, let me make my decisions based on it, irrespective of where I belong in the organization itself.
Got it. I mean, that perfect, and you summed it up really well, right? Let me just ask you this. Now, I have customers where it's product-led company or services, they don't have a research team, right? But there are projects left, right, and center going on by the marketing team, by the even the product team, and who should be the one, in your opinion, who takes ownership of this consolidated data, like you said, right? Making sure the grammar set, who should be owning this?
Right. So typically there are two, this kind of takes us into a couple of different approaches, right? Depending on who the company is. Now, in a company, and depending on the projects that they kind of do, I can see two avenues. One is you will have people in the marketing team who champion projects, right? If you are a typical a B2C, D2C company, then you have people in your marketing team who champion projects for customer understanding, and they can take this on as an additional role. And the idea is what the setup really comes from creating the initial syntax. After that, really the organic evolution of the product takes over, right? It is about creating the initial syntax, and the person who controls, or rather who initiates the most number of projects and or someone within their team can really become the champion to set this up. Maybe, let's say, software companies or companies which have a lot of product-led initiatives being done, then people in the product team, you have the UX team, you have the design team, which does a lot of customer-focused initiatives. Now, they again have the wherewithal to be able to initiate this exercise and set this up. right? But irrespective of who the persona may be, the persona needs to have some orientation or some proximity towards running customer-led initiatives. And the second thing is it is all about getting started with that initial setup, post which it is literally open for the entire organization as a whole.
Awesome. Perfect. So everyone who's on the call, all my customers, all QuestionPro customers, you heard it here from Vivek and Vidya directly. It's for everybody. If you're a QuestionPro customer, you get a discount. So feel free to reach out. We'll be happy to give you a more detailed demo. Not 10 minutes like Vivek did, but a very long demo of all of the features and definitely get you set up, right? Any other closing thoughts, Vivek, Vidya?
No, we are good.
Vivek, you're on mute.
Sorry, you covered most of it. I think we're good. Think we're good. Thank you so much.
Awesome. Vidya, thank you so much. You were saying something?
I was just saying that, there is true power in democratizing insights. And I think I'm personally a champion of it from multiple points of view.
I know. Vidya is Vidya is doubling up on this one. I love it. Like, I got democratized insights for both Inside Gig and Inside Hub. Like, we got a singular plural conversation going on over there. So one of us has to change our names, but that's all right. It's okay.
But there is. I think, especially given how much data exists in an organization, this is probably the need of the hour, to see how best we can use all the insights collectively and make sure everyone in the organization benefits from it.
Perfect. Thank you. And that was a good summary and takeaway for everyone who's joined. Just feel free to put in your comments. I will get to it. We will reach out to you. And looking forward to bringing Insights Hub to all of you.
All right.
Thank you, Vivek. Thank you, Vidya.
Thank you.
We will definitely be bringing you on Experience Matters later on as well. So I will be reaching out.
As long as you send me a bottle of wine, I'm always ready. Okay.
Whatever it takes.
Right, see ya.
Bye.
Bye.